Hi. So today I thought what I would talk about is how French women do their makeup, or what's called sometimes the French girl makeup look. And I have a number of products from a company called Violette FR that I'm going to be demonstrating. And I will just also talk a little bit about what I've found out about how French women tend to do their makeup. Now, obviously not all women from France do their makeup in the same way, but I spent the past couple days reading a lot of articles and watching a lot of videos on how women from France tend to do their makeup. And I think that there are some consistent themes and that there's a lot of agreement in terms of how people do their makeup. So I will talk about that, and I will also show you how I went about trying to achieve that look for this video today. So I think that first that women from France tend to want to look like they're natural, but that maybe they've put on a little bit of either a lip, a bright type of lip, or a fun eye look to complement their own natural beauty. So even if they end up wearing quite a bit of makeup, the idea is to look like you're really not wearing anything and to not put on very much. So in order to do that, then you really are going to want to be putting a fair amount of effort into skincare. And supposedly women from France do put more emphasis on skincare than a lot of women from the US do. Usually if I see a video about the French girl look, then like half of the video will be about skincare. But I'm not going to do that today because I think that everybody's skincare needs are so different and there's certainly not one way of doing skincare, that for me to talk about it in 10 minutes in a video like this is just not enough time. So I'm spending at least half of my time on my channel talking about skincare. So I would suggest that if you're interested in that topic to watch some of those videos. But I will skip on to the makeup part. So the idea with the makeup here is that back in the 1990s when I would go to work, even if my skin looked fine, I would feel like I needed to put on some kind of foundation in order to look more polished and to look more professional and grown up. Whereas what I see right now with the French girl look is that the idea is that you should not look like you're wearing foundation at all, and instead you're looking like you're just have bare skin and that's it. So if preferably, you're not going to be wearing foundation over your whole skin, or certainly it would be preferable not to be wearing a lot of heavy foundation, or if you are wearing heavy foundation, to do it in a way that people don't know that you're wearing it. And that if you have some issues on your face, then you want to cover them up, maybe a little bit with some concealer, or maybe some powder, but that you don't want to go overboard with that either, and that it's better to have some imperfections on your face and for people to know that you have a blemish, or for people to know you have reddish skin, rather than to look like you put on too much makeup and that people can tell that you're wearing it. So for me, for instance, today I felt like my skin was kind of on the reddish side. I've been trying on way too many different suspect products for these YouTube videos, and my face is not in the greatest of shape. But rather than put on any kind of liquid foundation, which is what I would usually do, instead I just put on a little bit more of the cream cover-up type product from Merit than usual, and then just tried to blend that in so that it would look like my natural skin. And I think it's not looking too bad at this point. I put on a little bit of powder over it. And another thing that French women apparently do like is they like to look like they've gotten a little bit of sun. That's seen as healthy. So whether or not they already have a tan, or whether or not it's winter, they will put on a little bit of bronzer, and to make it look like a natural way. So for this video, I picked the color bronzer that seems to work really well for me. So that is the Westman Atelier Coupe de Soleil butter bronzer, and so I just brushed a little bit of that on my face. I also put on a little bit of eyebrow pencil from Jones Road, and I didn't want to go too overboard with that, so I picked the simplest product that I had. And French women do like mascara, so I often do not wear mascara because my eyes tend to be really sensitive, and I just don't really always feel up to putting something on my eyes that might irritate them. But in this case, I put a couple coats of mascara on it because French women do like mascara. And I think that I do look better with mascara on it, so I'm okay about doing that. I did put on some concealer above my eyes as well, a liquid concealer. This one is from Say, which I think works really nice above my eyes and doesn't irritate my eyes, just to try to even out the complexion. But again, it shouldn't be something that anybody knows that I'm wearing eye makeup on my above my eyes. So far I put on 2 products from Violette. The first one is their highlighter, and this is a really kind of a muted highlighter. So I put a little bit of that on my cheekbones, and then I took a little bit of the a lip product that they have, and this is called Bisou Balm in the color Sucette, and I put that on my lips, and then I just put a tiny little bit on my cheeks, and that's it. So this is a really simple look so far, and I think that from what I can tell is a plain day look for the French people, that this is something that's fairly close to what they might wear. A couple of other comments about just generally how French people think about things. They tend not to put a lot of effort into styling their hair, so that they want to get it cut well, but most of the time they're not putting a lot of curling into it or blow drying it. And I'm totally on board with that idea, so I just showered my hair and then let it dry naturally. And they're also not very into things like baking with powder, and they're not into, for the most part, not into contour. I've seen maybe one young person do a tiny little bit of contour, but compared to the way that a lot of people talk about makeup these days in YouTube videos or in magazines, they tend not to put any contour at all. So that's somewhat different than Americans. And they also tend to, the idea is to have it be looking a little bit messy. So it's fine to have your imperfections show through. They're not trying to correct things about their face. They're not finding things that are, supposedly wrong, that are just individualities, like my eyes are too close together, or my nose is too long, or you can see my gums when I smile. They're not really looking so much at that. They're looking more just to look like a healthy version of themselves. And maybe, in my case, I really do think that my eyebrows are so sparse that I really do need to put something on the eyebrows. And if my face is looking kind of reddish, then I think it's nice to even it out. But I'm not trying at all to look anything like anyone else but myself. And I think that that's definitely the way that the French people are looking at makeup as well. So overall, I feel like after I read all of this information, I feel like I'm really quite on board already in terms of thinking the way that French people do, and that what I'm doing mostly with my makeup is exactly what the whole French girl aesthetic is like, which I guess is why I was a little bit drawn to this makeup line and also to the idea of doing this French girl makeup video. And I think that some of the lines of makeup that have come out over the past decade or so also were focused on that kind of a natural makeup look. So I'm thinking here, the first brand was probably Glossier, and then more recently I'm thinking Jones Road and Merit, and there's a few other brands that are really trying to promote this idea that you don't need to do too much, just try to make yourself look a little bit better with makeup, but the idea is not to change yourself into something else. So let's talk a little bit about this Violette FR line of products. So this is run by a woman named Violette Serrat, but she's usually just called Violette. And she has been a makeup artist for a number of years. I think she's 39 or so, 38, something like that. And she is from France, but she moved to the U.S. and she's been living in New York City for quite a while. And she has been involved with both Estee Lauder And now she is involved with Guerlain, and her title is Creative Director of Makeup. So she is fairly well known and respected in the makeup world. And she launched this line of her own products in 2021. And the idea with these products is that they were going to be clean. So I think they're certainly cleaner than products from Estee Lauder or Guerlain. And that she was just going to release a few products that she felt really strongly about were not being offered in the market, and that she felt were really epitomized what her own beauty type issues were about. So in addition to the makeup products that she's offering, she also offers a couple of skincare products and I think some kind of a bath oil type product. And there's also a dry shampoo and a perfume. And then there's 5 makeup products. So, and apparently she does have, she stated some really strong ideas about how American makeup is different than French makeup. So one quote she said was that French people don't contour, we don't buy it, we don't understand it. It's like putting on a mask and that's not what we're into. And then she goes on to encourage her readers to treat themselves more gently, doing away with the idea that there's anything that needs fixing to begin with. Maybe try some colors, some red lipstick, some eyeshadow. Take a few pictures and fall in love with yourself again. So what I did so far, I just have on sort of the basic look that I think that a French woman might wear. This lipstick may or may not be brighter than people might be wearing. But it's still a really casual type of a lipstick. So what I will do next is to add one more thing, which is their most famous product, which is a liquid lipstick. The French aesthetic is that you either put on a bright red lipstick or you leave your lipstick really neutral and you put on a fun eye look. But you would apparently, and this seems to be really consistent, apparently you would never put on both of those. So the idea is that you shouldn't have so much makeup on your face that you look overly done up or clownish or whatever, but just that it should be that there's just one element of your face that's having some attractiveness brought to it. And the other thing is that you shouldn't be spending a lot of time doing your lips, and instead it should take like 10 seconds or so. So you just put that, because it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to necessarily put on lip liner. You shouldn't expect it to be perfect all day and be afraid of being kissed. The idea should be that it's really pretty and it looks kind of smudgy, like maybe you were already kissing to begin with, and that you aren't that concerned about it because you have other more important things like living life on your mind rather than how you look, but that you just, only had to put in a few seconds and you look gorgeous. So this product is supposed to look like a red rose. So it's a really bright color and it's supposed to have the texture of like a rose petal. So it's matte, but it's kind of a velvety matte. And you just put a little bit on and then you kind of smear it around and don't worry about it so much. So let's see if I can do that. Oops. Oops. Oh my gosh. I made a huge mess. Wow, how'd that happen? This is really the test. Ah! All right, we need to go clean this up. I'll be right back. Now, I did not go and start over or anything. All I did is go in the bathroom and get this washcloth and just kind of wipe it off. And does it look messy? I think it does look messy. I don't think it necessarily looks unattractively messy, though. It probably looks unattractively messy by American standards, but I feel like this is not too bad. So there's not a lot of lipstick. You could put on a little bit more. But what I really like about this is that even if I just put on a little tiny bit like that, the color is very bright and it stays in place remarkably well, like for hours. So I'm used to using MAC lipsticks, the more matte ones or the satin ones, and those stay in place really well also. But I would say that these stay in place much better. And that once you put this on, you really don't need to worry about it for quite a while. And that when it does wear off, it wears off kind of like gradually, and it just fades a little bit. It's not like it looks patchy or anything. So I think that that's actually a really nice thing. And let's see if I can do it a little bit better this time. Just try to use this. Now, the other thing I could do is to probably just take a little bit of it and put it on my fingers and then put it on my lips. But I think that we'll try it this way. Oh my God. Every time I go in with my fingers, it turns into a big mess. So I put this on a few times before I did this video, and I did not have nearly as much trouble before. But I feel like even though it did smear around a lot, it cleaned up pretty easily with just a damp washcloth. And it definitely looks like it's on the messy side, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I thought what I would show you is this in comparison to the shade from MAC that is called Ruby Woo. So most people tend to think that Ruby Woo is a really bright, matte, serious lipstick, and that they might enjoy wearing it, but that it's definitely on the red side. So if you compare that to this, this is much brighter, I think. So what we have on the top, we have the Violette product on the top, and on the bottom we have the MAC Ruby Woo. And I'll put on another layer of the MAC Ruby Woo to see if we can make it approach the darkness. This shade is called Crazy Love, Amour. So when I put on another layer of the Ruby Woo on the bottom, it's starting to get as opaque as the Violette one, but it still is not as opaque, and I don't think that it wears as well. I think that this one, you could wear it all day, and it really will still have some bright red lipstick on there, and I think that that is an accomplishment. So let's talk a little bit about the products that I put on my face so far. So the first one is called Baume Shine, or Baume Sheen, and this is probably my favorite product from Violette. It is a small tube of highlighter, and I've used quite a bit of it so far. The first ingredient is squalane, so it's quite hydrating, and it also has sodium hyaluronate in it. And I think that this has gone on very nicely and that it looks really pretty on my skin. It reminds me a lot of the Merit highlighter, and I'll show it next to the Merit highlighter for you. I think that the problem with the Merit highlighter is not that it's not super pretty, it is, but that it tends to acquire a really bad smell after, in some cases, just after a few months. So that's been a problem for many people, and they've been really annoyed about that. I have had this product for probably 8 or 9 months, and it smells fine to me now, so I'm really happy about that. Another product that I think is not too bad in terms of a highlighter that's similar to this is the one from Victoria Beckham. And so I have both of those, and I can compare those to you on my arm, and you can see which ones if you think they look similar to one another. So I feel like these three are pretty similar to one another. This one is the Violette one. This one is the Merit one, and then this one is the Victoria Beckham one. And I think that the Victoria Beckham one looks a little bit wetter to me, but other than that, I think they all look quite similar and all quite pretty, and certainly a lot different than a lot of other highlighters that I've seen. And the product from Violette does have a few artificial colors in it, but otherwise the ingredient list is really clean, and I think that it looks very natural looking. It looks more natural than most other highlighters, and I think that's why people like that Merit highlighter, even though they get mad about the smell. And I think that that's the case with this one too. So I think that of the products that they offer, that this is a very nice one that might be worth ordering from them. Now the Bisou Balm is supposed to be a really natural matte lipstick that looks like you probably are not wearing any lipstick at all, but that maybe that you've been kissing. So I have the lightest shade in this, which is called Calisson, and then I have the most red shade, which is called Sucette. And Sucette is what I was wearing at the beginning of this video, and I will put on the Calisson one when I change to put on an eye look because that will create a neutral look. I think that the Calisson one for me is about the same color as my natural lip color, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not, so I think that that's an attractive color on me. It is kind of on the neutral side. These lipsticks have silicone in them, and they also have a some ethyl vanillin, so they have that kind of artificial vanilla smell that's similar to MAC lipsticks. So I don't object to it a lot, but it is artificial. I think in terms of the look of the product, it looks a little bit like Generation G from Glossier, but of course I would not advise anyone to buy that product. It's one of my least liked lip products that I've tried since starting this project. And the products that I think that I would consider using instead of these, I really like the RMS Tinted Daily Lip Balms. And NARS makes a group of, I think they're just called tinted lip balms. Let's see. NARS Soft Matte Tinted Lip Balm that are neutral colors and that are meant to look like the color of your lips. And I think that they're similar to this also. So those could be options. Now this lipstick that I'm wearing right now, this is called Petal Bouche Matte, and it costs $28. It comes in two shades now. The one is the Amour, which is Crazy Love, which is this blue-red color. And the other color is a newer shade, which is supposed to be a hot pink or a type of a fuchsia. And that's called Cœur Infidèle, which is Unfaithful Heart. And the description that Violette gives of that is that it's a daring and bold pink that pushes boundaries by balancing deep and vibrant. So one thing I decided to try is to smudge both of these and to see if they stayed in place or if they smudged. So the one on the bottom is the Ruby Woo, and then the one in the middle is the Violette one. And when I try to get that Violette one to smudge now, it really doesn't smudge. Look how nicely it stays in place. Whereas this Ruby Woo one, you can make it turn into a big mess without very much problem at all. So I think that that's very interesting. And I think that that's an explanation for why I've gotten such good wear out of it. The lipstick that's on the top here, I don't unfortunately have the Ruby Woo color in this, but this is the MAC Powder Kiss Liquid Lip Color. in the shade Sorry Not Sorry, I think. And it is, if I were going to get another lipstick that was a, um, a liquid lipstick that was matte like that, then this would be the one that I would purchase based on what I've tried so far. I think it's a very nice formula, and I think that it does also stay in place fairly easily. If I try to smudge this with a finger that's not already covered with red, it stays in place pretty easily too. So I think that it's possible that this Powder Kiss Liquid Lips color could be a good substitute for the Violette one, but I am impressed with the Violette one. I think that in terms of the staying power and in terms of how it looks on my lips and the way that it's pretty easygoing, I'm actually quite impressed with this product. So I think that the fact that it's won some awards like the Allure Best of Beauty World Award, I think that there's a good reason for that. I also like the fact that the Violette product has no scent at all. It doesn't have any bad taste in it. The ingredients list looks quite good to me, apart from the artificial colors. I do feel like this product has a very mild chemical type taste for a few seconds after I put it on. But then after that, the taste goes away entirely. I still am not sure that I feel that comfortable wearing a lip that's this bright, but I kind of think that it's attractive, and I kind of think that once I put it on, and it did take a little bit of effort to put on today, but once I put it on, it stays admirably well on my lips, and I don't really need to think about it at all. So I think that before I go and take this off my lips and start over with the eyeshadows, that I'll just talk a little bit about the eyeshadow, so in case I end up washing what I already put on my hands off of it. So I have 3 different colors of green liquid eyeshadow here, all 3 of which I actually like quite a lot. The one on the top is the Violette one, and then the one that is underneath that is from Lisa Eldridge. And then the one on the bottom is from Beauty Counter. And until I looked at these in comparison to one another, I didn't realize how much more kind of sparkly the Violette one is. So they call it twinkly. And I can see what they mean, that even though the others also have a shimmer to them, the Violette one seems to be a little more aggressive and just kind of a little shinier, but really in a way kind of pretty. So I'm kind of a little more enthusiastic about it now that I've compared it to the others. I am a really big fan of the Lisa Eldridge brand in general, and I've enjoyed wearing this eyeshadow on my eyes, but it does seem to be that the Violette one is a little more aggressive in terms of the shininess of it, which makes it an interesting product. Okay, so this is really interesting to me, I think. I went and took the lipstick off, and as best I could, without using a major lip exfoliator. So it's all removed as best I can, and I think it still looks pretty good. That stain is still pretty strong, but it looks really pretty, so I'm really happy with that. And I think that no matter when I wear this lipstick, and no matter how much little attention I pay with it, I think I will end up looking fine. So if I want to have a bright red lipstick to start out and then have it kind of wear off in a really beautiful way, I think that this is the lipstick to get. I think it's quite extraordinarily how well it does. Both of these lipsticks, the MAC, this is the Violette, and this is the MAC Ruby Woo. Both of those do stain, but I kind of like the Violette one in terms of how it stains better, and it certainly wears off more easily once it goes on, whereas the MAC one tends to just come off and then you show gaps. The other thing that's shocking to me is this hand. So I used a pretty good oil cleanser on my hand, and it took off the Lisa Eldridge product, And the Beauty Counter product, without any problems, you can hardly see that they were there. But this Violette one, it's like intact. So I'm not sure what you have to do to get that off. And once it goes on your eyes, it may be difficult to get off because look how firmly it stayed on my hands. But it certainly is continuing to look pretty. In terms of the eye makeup, let me read to you what it says. The eyeshadows are called Yeux Paint or eye paint, and there are 6 mattes and there are 6 shimmers, and the shimmers are actually called twinkling, and I can kind of see why now that I look at it in comparison to those other eyeshadows. Some of them are bright, some of them are more neutral. Apparently the ones that Violette likes the most are this green one, and then there's 2 that are blue. One that's kind of a mid-range sparkly blue, and then there's a matte blue. And I would actually be really interested in both of those now that I'm getting more into this product. The product has an applicator that is like a flat, sort of like a spatula. So the idea with this is that you can either use the flat side in order to create kind of a diffused smoky eye, or you can use the thinner side to create a French style eyeliner. So this is a really thick line because it's certainly not a narrow tip to it, but nonetheless I think it could be when I've played with it before, I think it's really interesting. And what she says is, glide the flat side of the applicator and quickly blend the pigment into the crease using fingers or brush, so that's for more of a smoky eye, or create a shape or a precise liner look by using the tip to draw. Either way, it's quick and easy. I think that what I will do first is to put on a little bit of black eyeliner because that apparently French people do like to use black eyeliner. Maybe not on a daily basis, but in order to really emphasize their eyes. And when they do it, they more use black. So I have a product here. This is the Calisson eyeliner that's in black, and that's worked pretty well for me without irritating my eyes at all. And so I have this little Jones Road eyeliner that I'm going to use to try to smudge it so that it's more smudged into my actual eyelashes. So my eyes are starting to look a lot more dark than usual now, and I don't think that that's unattractive. It's just not how I usually look. So I'm really nervous to put on this eyeshadow, so I think I'm going to kill a little time by putting on some of this lip balm. So this does not entirely cover the red. But on the other hand, it's not such a bright look that I think it will compete with the eyeshadow. And this is the Calisson shade. And then I have one more product from them that I will talk about a little bit, and that is the Bisou blush. And this is their newest product. I think it was just introduced in the late fall or so. And it comes in 3 shades. One of the shades is, I think it's based on her baby, what her baby's skin looked like. So it's kind of on the pink side and kind of supposed to be, innocent and youthful looking. And then this shade is supposed to be more of a tender beigey pink, and this is called Louise. And then there's one more shade that's supposed to be for darker skin tones. And this has a little bit of marbling in it. You can't really see it too much now, but there's some parts in here that are more of a moisturizing type of a product, and then there's some that's more pigmented. So it's supposed to create a really nice, kind of slightly dewy, not too dewy, and natural looking blush on the skin. The problem with this product is that I didn't realize this until after I had already ordered it, is that it includes fragrance in it. And I didn't realize that until I had already placed my order, and then I had gotten a message from them saying that they hadn't sent it out yet, and so I wrote to them and I said, you know, if this is going to have synthetic fragrance in it, then I don't want it. Can you find out and cancel my order? And they said, yeah, we'll get back to you with the information. And then the order went out, and they eventually got back to me and said that it included natural and synthetic fragrance. So I was kind of disappointed at how that all turned out. And I am especially disappointed in terms of how this smells, because although it is not the worst thing that I have smelled, it definitely has a strong synthetic fragrance to it. And the fragrance lasts for quite a while. So if I put this on my skin, I can smell it for at least a couple of hours afterwards. So I think that's really kind of peculiar. And I think it's peculiar that they would put this on the website and not mention that it has any fragrance in it when it's supposed to be a clean beauty product. So all of this was kind of disappointing to me. I wrote a review on the website pointing out that it had synthetic fragrance in it and saying that I was disappointed at what happened, and I think I gave it 2 stars. And they never published my review, so that was also disappointing. On the other hand, Glossier, one time I wrote a review on their website commenting about how the eyeshadow hadn't been tolerable to me because it had aluminum powder in it. And the people from the company within about 10 minutes wrote an apology and wrote me an email and refunded my money without my even asking. So I feel a lot better about how Glossier does business than how this Violette company does business. But nonetheless, it is a pretty blush shade. So I will show you what it looks like on me. And in the bottom it has this brush. So if you're out and about, I think this is the main reason for that. If you're out and about and your fingers are dirty but you want to put on the blush, you don't have to use your fingers at all, and you can just use this to brush it in, which is kind of a nice little touch. I've never seen a blush with a brush on it before, I don't think, or at least not very many of them. So I do think that's kind of a pretty color. But on the other hand, you know, I went through my collection of blush and I swatched a whole bunch of other colors of other blushes on my hands. So I'll show you those in the pictures. And I think that there's plenty of other colors of pretty blush, and that this one is really not anything especially special. So it's not real expensive. But on the other hand, I'm not real crazy about the fragrance. If you don't mind fragrance, this smells a little bit fruity. It reminds me a little bit of the fragrance that's in the Nux Shimmer Oil. So I didn't like that either. But some people really, really like these fragrances. So it really depends on what you're looking for. So with this eyeshadow, in the pictures on the website, they do show some people with the eyeshadow used as more of like a liner, and they show some people with it used quite a lot of it as a smudgy eye, and then they show some people with it used in a graphical way where they're actually like drawing a thin line like along the eyelid and then way up along the eyebrow, which I think is quite fascinating. And I don't know if that's something that's that I can do or not. I've given it a try a couple times. So I'm going to try to do that. And then if it doesn't work out, or maybe even if it does work out, then we'll just smudge it all together. So let's give that a try. So first I'll put on just a little bit up along my lash line so you can see what it looks like as a liner. It's kind of gorgeous, don't you think? And I kind of thought that this green color was going to be probably the easiest for me to use. But I think it's been easier than I anticipated, and that kind of makes me want to experiment with some more colors. So let's try doing something just fun where we like put a little line like just up like this, just for no reason except to try to be creative. And I think that's kind of pretty also. So maybe on this other eye, I would never wear that in public. But I think the idea of maybe trying to do that with eyeshadow and having fun with it and encouraging people to have fun with it is a nice thing to do, and kind of in the spirit of the whole French girl look, where playing with eyeshadow is supposed to just be a fun thing to do and not take it too seriously. So this time I'm going to try brushing the flat side on my eye to make it, and then she said just do like another swipe above like this, and then just kind of smudge it with your fingers. And she wants it to be like a little bit of like an angle upwards, and I don't know if I can do that or not. And it does seem to smudge briefly after I put it on before it stays in place, solidly in place. And again, I think that's kind of gorgeous. I don't know that it's more gorgeous than the Lisa Eldridge or the Beauty Counter, even the Beauty Counter one, but I do think it's really, really pretty. So even though I'm kind of mad at Violette, because I don't think that their customer service is that good, and I kind of don't think it's necessary to be putting perfume in any makeup products, I'm a little tempted to get some more of these. And maybe even to try that pink fuchsia color lipstick just to see what it looks like. So I kind of think I want to say, oh, there's nothing special about this line. You don't need to buy from them. You can buy from anybody else. And their customer service is not good. And if you react to it, you can't send it back. And so therefore it's too much of a risk. But I do kind of think there's something a little special about these products, and that there's kind of a reason for them existing, and that maybe if you play with them in the right way, that they might be nice. And I don't know for sure that they wouldn't take the products back if someone reacted to them and wasn't able to wear them. Maybe you should ask about that before you buy them. I don't usually send things back, even if I do react to them. So, I think it's cute. And I think it's okay that my lips are this color, but I think that it would probably be more French to have less color on my lips right now. And I think it's kind of a fun look, and I think I'd like to play with some of those other colors. So I hope that if you have used any of the Violette products, or if you have any thoughts about French girl type makeup, that you will please share your thoughts in the comments. And thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. If you've enjoyed this video, then I hope you will subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thanks very much for watching. And Coco and I love you very much. Goodbye. Bye-bye.